The fall of Constantinople in 1453, an event often depicted as the dramatic collapse of civilization, the end of the Roman Empire, and a blow to Christendom. But was it really the tragedy we've been led to believe? Was this the fall from grace of an empire, or the inevitable transition of a once great power? Let's take a closer look at the true nature of the fall of Constantinople and why it wasn't the sudden, catastrophic event history often paints it to be. First, it wasn't the original Roman Empire, that had already fallen centuries earlier. The Byzantine Empire, or Eastern Roman Empire, wasn't the ancient Rome centered on Italy. The Western Roman Empire collapsed in 476 AD with the deposition of the last emperor, Romulus Augustulus. By then, the empire had split in 395 AD, and Constantinople, founded as New Rome by Constantine in 330 AD, became the eastern capital. The Byzantines viewed themselves as Romans, but they had evolved into a Greek-speaking, Orthodox Christian society, distinct from the Latin West. By 1453, this wasn't a thriving powerhouse, it was a shrinking rump state, confined mostly to Constantinople and a few enclaves after invasions by Arabs, Seljuks, and others. The 1,000-year-old Roman Empire falling sounds epic, but the original heartland was lost nearly a millennium earlier. It was more like the final breath of a fading legacy than a tragic plummet. As historians note, the empire's fate was sealed long before the Ottomans arrived. Third, it was more an evolution of culture and migration of ideas than a fall from grace. Empires don't vanish, they transform, often seeding new eras. The fall of Constantinople was a pivot, redistributing knowledge and power. As the city fell, Byzantine scholars fled to Italy, carrying ancient Greek texts like Plato and Aristotle, preserved for centuries. This directly fueled the Italian Renaissance, reintroducing classical learning and inspiring figures like Marsilio Ficino. Without this migration, the Renaissance might have been delayed. From the Ottoman perspective, it was a triumph. Mehmed II renamed the city Istanbul, preserved architecture like Hagia Sophia, converting it to a mosque while admiring its design, and blended Byzantine systems with Islamic ones, creating a multicultural hub that thrived for centuries. Broader shifts followed. Disrupted trade routes pushed Europeans to explore alternatives, accelerating the age of discovery and Columbus's voyages, reshaping global economics. Western views emphasized tragedy from a Eurocentric, Christian lens, but globally, it was just another chapter in civilization's ebb and flow, like the sack of Baghdad or fall of Tenochtitlan. Clinging to the dying empire might have stifled progress more than its end did now. Let's address a key oversight. The 14th and 15th centuries were a golden era for the Islamic world, particularly under the Ottomans, Mamluks, Timurids, and Nasrids. This vibrant center of arts, science, and intellect often surpassed fragmented Europe, supporting the idea that 1453 was evolution, not collapse. In science, Islamic scholars advanced astronomy with observatories like Ulugh and Samarkand, refining models and developing decimal fractions through mathematicians like Al-Kashi. Medicine featured advanced hospitals in Cairo and Damascus, with Ibn al-Nafis theorizing pulmonary circulation centuries ahead. Engineering shone in irrigation, architecture, and gunpowder tech. The Ottomans used cannons masterfully in the siege. Arts flourished with stunning mosques like the Alhambra, Persian poetry by Hafez, and exquisite calligraphy. Madrasas and libraries were hubs of learning, synthesizing Greek, Persian, and Indian traditions. The fall tied into this. Mehmed absorbed Byzantine knowledge, making Istanbul a new hub. He preserved infrastructure, built palaces like Topkapi, and patronized scholars, blending styles in a two-way flow of ideas. Western narratives overlook this because they frame it as a Christian loss, but Islamic societies were stable, urban, and innovative, extending civilization's legacy. When Sultan Mehmed II, the conqueror, breached the ancient walls, he was not the fanatic Western media sometimes portrays. He was a pragmatic, cosmopolitan ruler presiding over the flourishing Islamic world, which was then a leader in science, art, and intellectual innovation, often surpassing a fragmented medieval Europe. Mehmed's goal was not to destroy, but to inherit and revitalize. The city became Istanbul, the magnificent new capital of the Ottoman Empire, demonstrating a transition of power from one sophisticated civilization to another. The displacement of scholars actually accelerated the European Renaissance, and the Ottoman control of trade routes sparked the age of exploration, indirectly leading to Columbus's voyages. What was a painful political defeat for Christendom was a profound global pivot for humanity. This calculated pragmatism was clearest in his approach to repopulating Istanbul. Far from initiating a widespread massacre, Mehmed enforced a policy of strategic diversity. He used forced migration, or surgan, to bring in Muslims, Greeks, Armenians, and crucially, Jewish communities. This was not altruism. It was brilliant statecraft. He needed their skills in trade, finance, and crafts to rebuild the economy. This policy made Istanbul a medieval model of multiculturalism, providing a secure haven for Jews fleeing the systemic persecution, pogroms, and expulsions they suffered relentlessly in Christian Europe. By establishing the millet system and protecting the rights of non-Muslims, Mehmed ensured the stability and tax revenue of his new capital. In the end, the true tragedy of 1453 is often the distorted Western lens through which we view it. The event wasn't the death of civilization, but a reconfiguration of power and culture, a process that was brutal, yes, but ultimately served as a fertile ground for the birth of the early modern world.